Former President of Iceland, Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, distinguished guests, dear friends. In these times we are living, when everything has changed quite dramatically, when tanks are rolling across borders and people are dying in a bloody, illegal, inhuman war against Ukraine, it is difficult to set the stage without a heavy heart. After the devastating wars of the first half of the 20th century, the leaders of the world promised never again. And yet, here we are, experiencing the most dangerous time in decades as a consequence of Russia's illegal war against Ukraine and Putin's reckless threats that undermine regional and global security. This has become the immediate concern of us all. In the broader context of things, the current situation caused by Russia is an emergency that can have catastrophic long-term consequences. While the behavior of Russia's president remains volatile and unpredictable, it is understandable that today's discussions about the Arctic are a bit overshadowed and dominated by concerns related to security. Of course, all the things that we need to figure out and work on, we base them on the fact that we can trust that international rule-based order is the way we do things. And while that is being attacked, we will face a different scenario if that aggression wins and they change the rules we play by. However, we must remain mindful when balancing our focus on short-term and long-term issues that the Arctic will remain a delicate area that requires extensive international cooperation long after Putin's war has ended. And looming behind us is the existential threat of climate change. Scientists have warned that the Arctic has warmed at about 4 times the global average over the last 4 decades. This is nearly twice as rapidly as commonly described before, and will likely accelerate the challenges and climate crisis that we were already fighting against, preparing for, and adapting to. Melting glaciers, rising sea levels, ocean acidification, thawing permafrost, forest fires, threats to biodiversity, and to agricultural production. The list goes on. The effects of this will travel way beyond the Arctic to the global south and can be expected to return to the high north in a different form. This will have immense social, economic, environmental, and political consequences, and dealing with this will require interdisciplinary cooperation. Dear friends, we have in fact all been pushed to reassess and readjust the security architecture in our part of the world into one that is fit for renewed purpose, that is functional, safe, and sustainable. And just like architects, we need to innovate, adapt our plans, come together with our diverse skill sets, do research, specify requirements, consult, and build partnership with various actors, also in the private sector, and adapt quickly to fast-changing security landscape. All of this with a view of maintaining peace and low tension in the Arctic. Transatlantic security is the backbone of European security. Iceland is a founding member of NATO, and our NATO membership, along with the 1951 bilateral defense agreement with the United States, remain the 2 main pillars of Iceland's security and defense. Moreover, the Arctic is a key foreign policy priority for Iceland. In 2021, the Icelandic Parliament passed a resolution on a new Arctic policy for Iceland. Building on our national security policy, Iceland will continue to play its part in contributing to security and defense in the North Atlantic and the High North, with both financial contribution, civilian personnel, and expertise. Ladies and gentlemen, Russia's brutal war on democratic sovereign state makes any cooperation with Russia within the Arctic Council impossible. However, the democratic Arctic Council member states must continue their cooperation to the extent possible. In addition, Russia's military buildup in the Arctic over the past decade and a half and their current military capabilities and activities are of growing concerns. These worries are reflected in NATO's new strategic concept, new Arctic strategies, increased military budget, adapted posturing and activities, also at Keflavik Air Base. We also need to be clear-eyed about strategic interests of third parties that seek foothold in the north. While we all hope for the best, it remains true that hope is not a strategy. As governments, we need to prepare our countries as best we can to meet threats we face. Standing still is not an option. We must move forward and adapt to a new security environment, to new threats stemming from both climate change and state actors. Like the climate change wasn't enough. Finland and Sweden joining NATO will both strengthen the alliance as a whole and further cement regional cooperation on security and defense. Regional cooperation in various formats, such as JEF and NORDEFCO, will remain important forums for cooperation when it comes to security and stability in the High North, North Atlantic, and Baltic Sea region. Truly like-minded nations with a shared geographic responsibility need to have venues for exchanging information and conducting joint exercises, thus strengthening our ability to effectively respond in the events of crisis. Iceland will continue to be a steadfast NATO ally and a reliable partner by increasing our contribution and activities within NATO and at home by stepping up our host nation support for NATO and allies' activities in the North Atlantic. Further strengthening of partnership, including within the civilian domains, enhancing information sharing, increasing civil and military coordination and cooperation, is of utmost importance in this regard, not least when it comes to building deterrence and resilience against hybrid threats. We should also be mindful that this cooperation and capabilities can also play a crucial role in preventing and reacting to major accidents and disasters that may occur in the Arctic. Ladies and gentlemen, today, for the first time in decades, I think we might truly understand what it is that is worth fighting for. Our values: freedom, democracy, human rights, and rule of law. And we must remain united and continue to fight for these values. And these are the values that the defenders of Ukraine want to secure for their children. And they have done so with courage that is truly inspiring. They have faced evil and are staring it down. The defenders of Ukraine want to secure a future of freedom for their children. Only in a free society can human creativity flourish. Indeed, courage, creativity, and innovation are exactly what it is required if we are to find the transformative solutions that the world so desperately needs to meet today's challenges and to ensure a stable, peaceful, and sustainable Arctic for the people in the Arctic and around the world. So while we here are talking about collective minds, together we can find the solutions. That means our minds will have to be free. We will have to be able to criticize. We will have to be able to challenge the status quo, to criticize governments, politicians. So if our mind is not allowed to be free, it is much less likely that we will find the solutions that we so desperately need for the man-made problems that we have created. That is why Ukraine is a big thing at Arctic Circle Assembly this year. Because we have to be able to trust that the values that we build the rest on, will be there and stay there. And we can trust that is the way we go forward, the way we make decisions. The multilateral system, the international rule-based order. If we don't have that, how are we gonna solve this? What's the playbook? We already decided what the playbook was. And that is what we're fighting for. I'm very happy that we're having this event here today, and I agree with Mr. Grímsson. I really hope that this will be an annual thing at the Arctic Circle Assembly. Thank you.